Before we get started, I just want to extend my congratulations to Thor: The Dark World, because as of this very review, it is no longer my least favorite movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Thor: Love and Thunder, I raise my Baskin-Robbins to you. Congratulations. Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel. This is my review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which is the third movie in the Ant-Man franchise, the 31st movie overall in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and the beginning of Phase 5. Phase 4 was pretty divisive overall, but that's in the past. Time to move forward with Phase 5. Oh boy. Anyway, this movie follows Scott Lang, played again by Paul Rudd, who's basically made a name for himself after he was pretty much responsible for the events of Endgame happening, or more specifically, it was that rat that was responsible for him coming back and setting in motion the events of Endgame. But nevertheless, he's touted as a hero. Everyone recognizes him. He even wrote a book called Look Out for the Little Guy, which is actually going to be a real book that you can actually buy at some point. So regardless of how I feel about the movie, I'm looking forward to getting my hands on a copy of that book. But anyway, he's doing great. He's having some on and off issues with his daughter Cassie, now played by Kathryn Newton from freaky Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Since Cassie didn't get snapped away by Thanos 5 years ago, or 5 years prior to the events of Endgame, she has grown up without her father, and she's pretty much become a typical Gen Zer, but not like the type of Gen Zer in Bodies, where it makes me lose faith in the next generation, but one that gives me hope. She has developed a way to try to communicate with the quantum realm. But when Janet Van Dyne, played once again by Michelle Pfeiffer, realizes that what Cassie has invented sends a signal down to the quantum realm, she starts freaking out. Her, Cassie, Scott, Hope, and Hank all get sucked into the quantum realm, where there's essentially another universe being ruled by an evil entity called Kang. Now, for months, I've had to endure film Twitter shitting on this movie ever since the first trailer came out. People were making fun of how it looked like Spy Kids 3D, and they were just talking nonstop about it, but not in a good way. And after a while, it was just like, oh, shut up. Ever since Scorsese's infamous quote of, "The Marvel Cinematic Universe is not cinema," film Twitter has just been having a field day of roasting the MCU, and I ultimately got sick of it. It's ultimately why I deleted the Twitter app on my phone, and I'm not on there as often. But ultimately, there was a little merit to some of the criticisms that people have had leading up to this film's release. And honestly, most of the criticisms have been towards the way it looks, which, the way it looks, I don't know, it's a mixed bag. I'm just gonna get this out of the way right now. Sometimes the movie looks really good, has some really cool special effects, great sequences in terms of the way it looks, but other times it has some of the worst green screen effects I've ever seen. As bad as the green screen effects in the theatrical cut to Justice League. They were just like, oh god. And it's been well documented that in the past couple of years, Marvel has been overworking and underpaying a lot of their visual effects artists. And Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania might actually be the biggest casualty to this problem, because you can clearly see that this might have the worst visual effects of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. But you know what? Visual effects that don't hold up compared to the rest of the franchise, that I can look past as long as the rest of the movie is entertaining. As long as I enjoy hanging out with these characters, as long as I'm invested in what they're doing, I could just push the visual effects to the side. I mean, we all did it with Black Panther, so fair enough that we give it a shot with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And unfortunately, the visual effects for me are the least of this movie's problems, because I found the first half of it to be incredibly boring. It just wasn't appealing to look at. The story was just kind of all over the place. It had an interesting setup, but it often frustrated me with what was happening. More specifically with Michelle Pfeiffer as Janet Van Dyne. Now, she does a good job acting-wise, but in terms of Janet as a character, I just found myself incredibly frustrated with her because throughout the first half of this movie, she is vague, she doesn't explain what's going on, why she's so terrified of going back to the quantum realm. Even when all of our characters get sucked into the quantum realm, she is reluctant to explain about what's going on. She doesn't mention it until a good long while, and I'm just thinking, things could really have worked out in everyone's favor if you just opened up and explained what is wrong. You're not easing everyone's nervousness by just keeping everyone else in the dark consistently. And it just got to a point where I was irritated. Another thing that I think hurt the first half of the movie was the relationship between Scott and Cassie Lang. Because Kathryn Newton, at some points, she did a good job in the role, and then other points I thought she was pretty flat in terms of her line delivery. Because Kathryn Newton has proven herself to be a capable actress. I mean, I loved her in Freaky, but as Cassie, she is just kind of all over the place. And I don't know if that's because of the direction or the way this character is written, but it just felt like she didn't have much to work with. And also, I don't understand why they recast Cassie to begin with, because Emma Fuhrman played Cassie in Avengers Endgame, and she had a really, really great scene in that movie when Cassie and Scott are reunited. And the fact that they actually recast Cassie without telling this other actress is kind of a bummer. We'll never know if the movie would have been better had Emma Fuhrman played Cassie in this movie. But Kathryn Newton throughout the first half just didn't really sell me 100%. Evangeline Lilly doesn't have anything to do in this movie. She's just kind of there to help out, give reaction shots. She doesn't have that many lines of dialogue. And that's disappointing because regardless of how I feel about some of Evangeline Lilly's beliefs right now, I'll just say that, the last movie, Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I still think is pretty underappreciated, did a good job of fleshing out Hope Van Dyne more than she was fleshed out in the first movie. So for her to kind of take a back seat in this one was rather disappointing. The movie does waste people like Bill Murray and William Jackson Harper from The Good Place, and MODOK. Now look, I understand MODOK is already a weird-looking character. He's ugly, he's bizarre-looking, so what I'm about to say is not a reflection on the character's design, but MODOK is just unappealing to look at. And that mostly has to do with the poor special effects and the fact that there are just some comic characters that I don't think work in live action. Throughout the entire 15-year history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they have proven to me time and time again that they can do anything. They can take any ridiculous thing and make us believe in it. MODOK, I think, is the first time where I just couldn't buy into it. And it's a shame because a lot of us were really looking forward to seeing this character back when Chris Evans was still playing Steve Rogers. Now, to pull myself away from all the negative feelings I have for the movie, I want to talk about the stuff that I liked, because I'm not going to tell this movie to burn in hell, because there are a lot of things that I did enjoy. First of all, the actor that everyone's talking about in this movie, Jonathan Majors as Kang. Now, he played a variant of Kang in Loki, He Who Remains, and this is a very different performance than what we saw with the Kang variant in Loki. And he's a really great setup for what's to come in the future with Avengers Kang Dynasty, because Jonathan Majors as Kang is cold, he's terrifying, he's calculating, he outsmarts a lot of the people in this movie. In just one movie, he has already demonstrated that Kang is going to be a bigger threat than Thanos. So Jonathan Majors absolutely killed it. And even the most cynical reviews of this movie have acknowledged that Jonathan Majors is great. I mostly complained about the first half of this movie, but when we get into that second half, at the point where Kang is introduced, that's when the movie started to redeem itself. I thought the final battle was a lot of fun, especially when Scott grows into Giant Man and is destroying things left and right. I think there a handful of moments near the end of the movie where Scott and Cassie actually get some time to shine. We get to see their bond grow, we understand why Cassie looks up to her father, and realize that Scott will do anything to keep Cassie safe. Like, he loves his daughter to the end. And the second act was worth it enough for me to say, watch at your own risk. This is normally one of those situations where I'd say you have to see this on the big screen because it is a Marvel movie, but because a lot of the movie is kind of unappealing to look at, especially with those green screen effects, you might be better off watching this on Disney+. Because I can't go as far to say, oh, you should skip it entirely, because as we've seen with Thor: The Dark World, you kind of have to watch all these movies because they're going to pay off at the end of the multiverse saga. Though I personally wouldn't recommend seeing this movie in a theater, I do say that you should see it at some point. Just go into it with low expectations. I mean, if you go into this movie with no expectations and you've been hearing everyone give this bad reviews, including me, you might watch it and go, hey, that wasn't too bad. And if that's you, God bless you for it. But me personally, this is my least favorite movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but considering their really good track record and the fact that it took them 31 movies to finally give me one where I'm super unenthusiastic about it, that's a pretty impressive run. And there you go, that's my review for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. You can also like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day, and take care of yourselves.